Welcome everybody to Meet My Friends. My guest today is Adriana Rosales. It's a Latina that you're gonna be hearing about a lot, and you're gonna remember that you met her at Meet My Friends as well. Welcome, Adriana.
Thank you, Maria. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So I know that you do a lot. You're a poet. You're also an author, and there is a concept that you have with the heart match in
Oh
the
yeah.
corporate world. So you have so many like fields, and I want us to know about you.
Oh, great. Yeah. So a little bit about the Heart Math Institute is an organization based out of California, and for the last 20 plus years, they've been working on all the science, and they do research on this heart and mind connection, and they have been able to identify in the last 20 years that in fact the heart is the master controller of the body, where when we are brought up in school and when we're brought up understanding our body, we're always told that it's the brain that is the master of everything. It's the brain that calculates everything. But in reality, the heart is considered a brain. They call it the little brain. And in 1990, it was Dr. Moore that discovered that there was this information in the heart that could be scientifically considered as a little brain, and that the heart has this electromagnetic field around it that is much larger than the brain. And when the heart feels an emotion, it sends signals to the brain, and then the brain reacts to that and then sends signals back to your body for you to perform or do or understand. And so that's a revolutionary concept that a lot of people typically don't know, and it's not being taught in our schools now, which is interesting because that was so long ago and it should be being taught in our schools. But what happens with our school system is that it just takes years and years for us to get the latest news, and that has to do with the fact that a lot of the schools don't like to update or upgrade books because it costs money, right? So
Yes.
that's a long version of the Heart. And I'm certified through them, so I do teach a lot of the science, and I teach a lot of their tools that they have to help minimize anxiety and stress, and I walk people through how to do that.
Yeah, that's really cute. So when I sent the link to your email, I realized that I had two other emails. So you have Adriana and Company, you got Latinas 100, and there is another one. So I'm like, this
Girl,
girl
I have
has like everything.
I have like 20 different emails. I try to keep them all separate because I have a lot of projects going on. So the Latinas 100 project, as you know, is a separate project. But and then my company as a whole, I actually have info at adrianarosales.com, and that's where I get most of my business emails.
So earlier when we were talking about making the interview, you told me that you now have 7 books. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I just keep, I always tell the writers that I'm writing with that haven't published yet that there's a psychological barrier with your first book, right? So
Yes.
it took me 4 years to write my first book, which is actually this one right here.
Yeah.
Corporate Code. It's in English, Spanish, now in Mandarin. So it's 3 languages, and I'm working with someone that's translating it into, I think it's Swahili. So I'm excited about that. So this book took me 4 years to write. And it was I'll share that story. It was really interesting. So when I started writing it, I was working for a corporation, and I was seeing a lot of things that were just, that I personally felt weren't not okay. They violated my moral compass. And I saw how a lot of the leadership was treating the employees, and it would make me so upset. And a lot of the men would say, oh, you're just being a softie, you're just being sentimental. But I saw a lot of things that I didn't like. So I promised myself that when I got the opportunity that I would write a book about it, right? So 4 years, well, now it's been more than 4 years. So when I started writing it was 5 years ago, and I did the first book, right, was like 300 pages. And I sent it to somebody to edit it, and a friend of mine to read it. And I remember it took him forever to get it back to me. And finally I was like, can you just tell me what you think about the book? And then he says, you sound really angry. So I was like, oh no, I don't want to publish anything that sounds angry, right? So then I came home and I remember I threw everything away and I started again. So the second year I wrote it again and I just started, writing about the experiences and the stories that I had in the corporate world, even since I was like starting in my 20s, and everything that I saw in the workplace that I didn't like and some of the solutions. And then I gave it back to him again. And then he says, "You sound really bitter." And I'm like, "Yes, I'm bitter because you said that I was angry, in the first place." So this time it was only 200 pages, and I remember just throwing them away. I was like, do it in the trash on my desktop, and I was like, I'm not going to put anything that is angry or that is bitter. So then I started again. So the third year, I was like, what do I really want to share with the world? And it really was about the solutions to the problems that I was seeing, but more than just the solutions. It was the reason why I felt the way that I felt, and why these things that I was witnessing were violating my moral compass, and how we could use tools to help the corporate environment be better for employees. And then, so, now we're the third year. It was only about 160 pages. And then when I sent it back to him, he said, "Yes, this is the book that you want to publish." So then it took me 4 years to publish. And then once I published, I also did like a workbook in the back, and then the workbook is to walk through the employees on certain tools that they can acquire to also help their employer, mitigate a lot of the issues that are very common in the workplace. And then as soon as that happened, a year later, I had like 2 and then 3. I started writing a lot of poetry books and a lot of manuals and workbooks. And before you know it, when I had looked at Amazon, I'm like, oh, I've already published like 7 different books, So, so that's what I've been doing. It was just like this mental barrier. And then once you get the first one done, then the other ones come really easy.
Well, I'm glad, because I remember when I met you and you were speaking of that Al Jelson group. Al Jelson.
Yeah.
And you were presenting that book, because I remember they took a picture of you, but you also mentioned that you like poetry.
Yeah. And I remember because I heard you speak, and I was like, oh, you're into poetry too. And I think that's how we had connected, because then I went and I bought your book too. And then, yeah, I remember. That was awesome.
But this is only like 2 years ago, Adriana, and you already have like 6 more books after that one that I saw that speech. That's good. So you're going kind of fast.
Yeah, it was all mental. It's all about mindset. And I always wondered, I'm like, how do people, how can they publish so many books? Because I know a lot of authors, and they're like on their 15th, 20th, and they're really young too. And then they're like, yeah, once you get your first one, there's something happens, so like this little switch goes off where you just that you can do it. And I'm reminded of like the 4-minute mile. Everybody thought it was impossible, right? But then once the person did it in the Olympics, it was like, then years after that, a bunch of people had hit the 4-minute mile, right? So that's I really believe in that idea that once you do the very first step, and then you believe in your not just your mind, but you believe in your heart that it can be done, then things happen so quickly. And one thing that I've also learned just through being a student of the Heart Math Technology and the Heart Math Institute is that everything really is tied to the heart. Everything. I mean, everything. I could do a workshop on that. Everything that you do in life, personal, professional, everything is tied to the heart. And once you understand that, I think that life can be more fluid. It can be a lot more fun, and you can enjoy life better. I don't know if I answered your question, but
you did, yes.
So I think my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, I think when you get over the barriers and the beliefs that you have, or what people told you as a little girl, and coming from our parents, is always impactful. I remember one time I was like 17, and I had a boyfriend. So I'm wearing like a purple skirt. It was like shorter on the sides, and it was like a parade after the parade. So we go, and it's a lot of people in there. So I come with my boyfriend, and I had a red lipstick on. And my sister yells at me in front of like everybody, "You look like a whore." And you, yeah, and she said, and you got lipstick on your teeth. So I cleaned it, but it made me feel like very uncomfortable that she said that in front of everybody. So that kind of was attached to me, where I wouldn't feel comfortable wearing dark lipstick, because I will remember about what she said.
Oh,
Or they will say, well, you have big lips, you're not supposed to wear like darker colors. And it's like these taboos that we deal with that sometimes get attached to us until like we can process it in a different way. And just it's not so big anymore. It's not something that is like a barrier
how
or
did you
something that you're not allowed to do.
yeah, how did you overcome that? How did you, because that's like, that's so mean.
Well, I did self work, I understood where she came from. So what happens is, so me and her are like very similar. I am the sister that looks more than like her. She's 8 years older than me. So what I understood was, at the time when I had a boyfriend, she didn't really have a stable relationship, and she wasn't married yet. So she was very jealous that I have someone, and that I can wear a mini skirt, because my mom didn't allow us to do that. So if I bought like a mini dress, she will tell me it doesn't look good on me. She says, oh, it doesn't look good on you. Give it to your little sister. And then my little sister will wear it. And because she was taller and she has skinny legs, it was even shorter. But the problem was not that the dress was not looking good on me, is that I have beautiful legs. So because
Yeah.
because of that, my mom was afraid, the wrong person was gonna come to me, or when I was gonna get sexually abused, or like many boyfriends will wanna be with me, so they don't want you to show your body. And the same thing happened when I started getting boobs. So that time, I understood where she came from, because she wasn't happy with her body shape. And I remember I was really happy that day. I remember like it was today, like I was wearing like a white top, and it was just like it was a fabric similar to this. It's like we call rayon in Spanish. So it was this kind of fabric that gets wrinkled really easily.
Yep.
But I remember that it was loose and it was just so comfortable. And the skirt I had, it felt like, something that you can even dance with. Like one of those that it was like it wasn't even tight, it was loose. It was something like very comfortable that you can even dance with. And I just felt bad for her, because she made herself look like a witch.
Yeah.
There was no need to yell at me in front of everybody and call me that.
How many years ago was this?
Well, I was 17, so 27 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you were able to heal that, and forgiveness and all that good stuff.
No, of course, you had to do the work. And but it's just, situations like that, where it's either like, well, this time was my sister, but if it's your mom or your parents, things that we get told that it's I related to some working on a book called "And the Need to Be Fat," and I associate the reason we eat with the emotions we get. So I feel like even when we're doing something for ourselves, like these emotions come, and it's like something that can stop you or make you just go on, and believe in yourself, and believe that you're okay with your choices that you make.
Yeah, I believe that. I think I was in my 20s when I just decided one day, I was like, I'm not going to listen to anybody. I'm only going to listen to what my heart says. I was a kid, and I was really rebellious.
Yeah.
And I just remember I always told myself, don't listen to my mom, don't listen to my dad, because I understood, like I was a 17-year-old kid, I understood that the kind of life, and I love both my parents, and they know that. I understood the kind of life that they had. That's not the kind of life I wanted. And how they treated each other, that's not how I wanted to treat other human beings. And I understood these things. And I said, no, don't listen to anybody. And, I got a lot of criticism, even until now, and that's okay. And I forgive. But I really believe, like, I just had to listen to myself. I couldn't believe what people thought about me, or what they would say about me, like, because I knew myself, and I knew that whatever they believed about me, that was on them, not on me. I knew who I was. I've always known who I am. And unfortunately, because I thought that way and I made a decision at a very young age, there was a lot of disconnect with my family and the people around me, because I wouldn't allow for someone to sit down and say, oh, you know, you think you're better, or who do you think you are? Like I get a lot of that even now. Like, who do you think you are? That I'm not thinking, I'm Adriana Rosales, of course. You know, it's like, and some people just get so annoyed because it's like so much confidence and so much like in your face, and people are like kind of thrown off by it, like, you know. And I just have to let people be people. Like, that's okay. You know, you think this, that's all right. Or, especially when people see videos and, or like, I'll hear a lot like, why did you wear that on video? Or why did you say that on video? Or cut that out of the video. It didn't sound good. And I'm like, you know, like, I don't really, it doesn't matter to me. Like I am who I am. It is what it is, and take it or leave it. And I don't, unfortunately, a lot of people do fall into this trap of listening. Oh, but they're my parents, I have to listen to them. Or that's my sister, I have to listen to them. But no, you don't have to listen to anybody. Just follow your heart. And even, I mean, this goes to like the media and books you read. You got to be a critical thinker and think about why people are doing certain things, why people are writing certain things in the media. Like, is it really, you know what I mean? Like, you have to go beyond that. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the experiences that I had growing up, and I'm grateful for all the pain and all the awful things that were said to me and about me, because that made me realize that, you know, I could be better than those things.
Yeah, well, a lot of times we'll get criticized for things that is like either a signature or either something that we get paid good money, you know, later in life. And it happens like, if I don't know if you ever heard the story of Walt Disney, but he was let go of the newspaper because he couldn't draw, and who he became, you know.
Yeah, I saw a documentary, a version of the documentary of him, and he had a really interesting life. And there was a point in his life where he couldn't pay his workers. So a lot of them were working for free, and then finally they were, you know, protesting like, you gotta pay us, but he never gave up on his dream. He still kept going, he still kept borrowing money, and he knew. And one thing about Walt Disney is that he believed in himself. Yeah. Even when he had no money and his employees were like, all his graphic artists, they were like, dude, where's my paycheck? He didn't lose it. Like, he just kept going, and he kept doing it, and he kept working on it, because he could have given up so many times, and he never did. And that's a person that knows themselves, and that's a person that really, you know, really just did it. And I remember at the end where even before he passed away, he was going to build like even he had a bigger idea. It wasn't just Disney World, but it was like this other massive, like bigger than Disney World. And he ended up passing away. But one thing that I did learn from watching his story and learning about him was that it was almost like he wanted the next best thing, the bigger thing, and he was always working. Yeah. So what I got out of it as a young person when I think I saw it like 5 years ago, more than that, maybe 8, 9 years ago, that he didn't know when to stop and enjoy life. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I want to reach a certain level of success, but I want to be able to stand back and just enjoy it. You know, like I don't need like, you know, Disney World, the next best version, you know, like I really just want to be under a tree and be able to see and watch my children every day and play with my dogs. Like, that's it, without having to worry about, like, that's it. You know what I mean? Like, without having to worry about the mortgage or, you know, school loans or anything like that. Like, it sounds like such a small goal, right? But that's what I've learned from Walt Disney is like, he couldn't stop. He would just kept working and working and working and working and working. And he worked till his older years. And I admire him. I think he was, you know, he's an American icon, right? He is. But you have to know when to stop. You have to just say, hey, you know, Disney World is great. Like, leave it at that. Yeah. we don't need no, like, we don't.
You know, yeah, you know what I think what happens with overachievers, that a lot of times the projects that people do, they don't give fruits right away. So it takes time. So by the time you realize how big is what you created, you're already on another project. Like when Dyer says, when people ask me about a book, I'm not even interested on that book because I'm already writing another one. It's like how quick you're moving.
It's true. It's like, it's so true, because right now I have all these projects, right? And I'm like, yeah, I wrote this like years ago. I just launched like a Bitcoin. It's like a Bitcoin It's not a workbook, but it's a Bitcoin ledger. So
Yeah.
if you're investing in Bitcoin and you're worried about putting all your info in digital, which a lot of people are, like now I've created this Bitcoin ledger, and they recommend that you do it old school with a pencil and paper, and you put in your stuff, like especially like your Bitcoin keys. So that's like my latest and greatest, my Bitcoin journey right now, but and all the altcoins that are happening. But yeah, I know that before I'm 50 years old, I will have 20 books under my belt. And I want to make sure that this book gets translated into 10 different languages. So it is like, that's it. That's the goal. Like, I'm freaking awesome, and it's going to happen. And I know me, like, I know it's going to happen. And I know when I hit 50, once I can, check the box, I'll be happy with myself. And it really isn't for anybody else. It's just really for me, like, because I know my worth. I know who I am, and I know where I'm going. And, if people want to join me, hey, great, because I'm a firm believer in bringing people with me. And that's another reason why I'm doing the Latinas 100 project. Free program, free opportunity for Latina writers to get on board and become published this year, next year, because I'm keeping up the program every year. But that's the reason, because it's a lot more fun when you bring people with you. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. So a way of measuring your success is to see how many people you brought up with you. It's not just how far you went, but how many people you brought up with you. And I think that's what you're doing with the Latinas project.
Yeah, like, who are you helping? Like, every day, I was coaching a certain amount of women in Mexico.
Yeah.
And one of the goals was, like, one of the first questions when I was doing the coaching was, yes, you have your list of goals that you're accomplished, but who are you helping?
Yeah.
Give me a list. And a lot of them couldn't tell me, I'm helping this person, I'm helping that person, or like, really. And I mean helping without payment.
Yeah.
And there's so many people that are like, why are you giving this away for free? Why are you doing everything for free? Blah, 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 right? But nothing is for free, because when you're able to help another human being, there is something that I call the joy of life. The purpose of being alive is to help another human being that can never possibly repay you back. And that's okay, because that's why we're here, to help each other. And we all have different journeys. Some of us have certain skills that allow us to give more than others, and others don't have that potential, and that's okay, because that's why I'm here. So I can say, hey, you want to join me in my journey? Guess what? I can do A, B, and C, faster, bigger, better, and I'm willing to share that with you. Join me on my journey without cost, no strings attached. And that's beautiful. Like, that is freaking why we're here on earth, to empower each other and help each other. And that goes to every project that I'm involved in. And I believe that that was the purpose for me doing a lot of the projects when I was in Morelia in Mexico, was to show a lot of the women that I was working with, is like, hey, this is a way of being, this is a way of operating in your life. And all of them were able to publish. Like, they were able to get more momentum and more rhythm and more opportunities, because they were in this giving mode. So I always say, like, when you are giving, right, what happens when you give, right? Your hands are open.
Yeah.
So then now your hands are open to receive whatever it is, whatever God is going to give to you, because only God knows what those things are. And then you're giving, and you're obviously, receiving all the time. And then let that be what it is. It could be a new relationship with a new friend, or a new opportunity on a podcast, right? Or because that's just how it works. It works that way. And in life is so much more fluid, and it's so much more joyful. And that's the key. Yeah.
I love that. That's a beautiful teaching. And it's just what you do inspires others. Like I was telling you earlier, I started the interviews because of you, because you're an example of the Latinas.
You're so great.
No, because you inspire me, you know, such a beautiful concept. So when I saw you the interviews on YouTube, I really love, you know, how you're giving people opportunities. And then lately I have been watching interviews in Spanish. And I thought that would be really good to give me skills.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, you know, to prepare yourself when you get interview yourself.
Yeah, I saw your videos and I'm like, yeah, I was so happy for you. And you were really good because you were interviewing George and Al Jensen, and you know, I was like, I love these guys, they're awesome. So
yeah, they're fun to watch, to talk to. It's like you just need to give them that opportunity, and that, you know, it's okay, do what you want to do, and they're happy, they're, you know, they're willing to share.
Yeah.
So.
Now because I remember before the whole thing with the pandemic and stuff, all the connections with that group, and then it made me, I'm like, oh my God, I gotta reconnect with a lot of those guys and, you know, start conversations. So it's always fun, and I miss them. So.
Yeah, well, you can always come back. I haven't seen George lately or all the Protos Masters on the Zoom meetings, but they have their own trainings. And what I found out is that it's easier for me to interview someone who I already met and talked to in person. Mm-hmm. And the ones I haven't, it's kind of, I'm getting to know, you know, them at the same time as, you know, whoever who watches the video is, because I really don't know much about besides what they post on social media.
Yeah, it is easier. I've been doing a lot of interviews with women that I just met because of the Latinas 100 project. And for example, yesterday I interviewed Ale Castellanos, and she's from Mexico, but she lives in Israel. And it was the first time that I had interacted with her, but she's part of the project. And, you know, I spent like the whole day watching her videos, podcasts, reading through her bio, getting to know her. I bought her book. I went through all of the, you know, the research that you need to do. And it's difficult because if you haven't talked to them before, then you don't know what's going to show up. But I'm a trusting person. So I knew once I got on camera with her that it would just be fluid. And it was 8:00 in Israel. And then it was 10:00 my time. So, and we were talking and it was great. So, but it was not as fluid as like when I've met someone. So I agree. It's different.
Yeah.
And you know everybody, girl, so you'll be good.
Well, it is a learning experience, you know, so I try different things with people. So I want to try something with you. I'm going to say a word and you're going to say the first word that comes in mind.
Ooh, I love this game.
Okay. Ready?
Go for it.
Okay. Beach.
Water.
Kids.
Love.
Food.
Joy.
Bicycle.
Happy.
Train.
Trip.
Okay. Airport.
Adventure.
Okay. Boys.
Interesting.
Dance.
Oh, love it.
Okay. How long has it been since you were able to dance? How long ago were you dancing?
Oh my God!
Like in public.
Well, I'm a salsa dancer. I love salsa dancing, and I haven't done it. I'm committing to you that I'm gonna do a video dancing salsa with my husband.
That's cute. I want to see that.
I'm gonna post it. I'll post it. Because I've been wanting to salsa dance for a while, and I just haven't done it because I've been so busy, and you know, I gotta do it. I love it. I love dancing. I think dancing is a gateway to God. I really believe that.
You gotta do a break with you know, salsa dancing so people can see. I think
I'm gonna do it. I'm saying it live here.
That's good.
So you hold me to it, right?
Yes, I hold you accountable. So yes, I want to see that. It's good when we do things for people to have fun, and you having fun yourself. It's just showing that spirit, you know. It's always there.
Yeah.
What else do you like as far as like self-expression besides writing?
Well, I did. Right now. I'm doing a class where I get to learn how to draw. It's like a art 101, and I'm doing that because I'm writing a kid's book with my teenager, my son, and I want to learn how to draw the little characters. So I love to draw. I've always drawn, but I didn't know the principles of drawing. So I'll show you. I wonder if I have them. Oh, let me show you real quick what I drew today. Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
So I'm doing this class, and then the teacher was showing us how to do the drawing of a hand, and I was like, oh, that should be easy. But then he said, no, the way that you see the hand is important. So, you know, during the training, during the video, he said, okay, you know, do these things. And so this is my hand. Can you see that?
Yes.
And then I was like, because you're supposed to look at the hand and then draw the lines outside the hand. So that was my first one. And then as I learned, and he gave us some other tips and tools on how to actually look at the hand. And, you know, an hour later, this is what I drew.
Oh, that's better. That's more detail.
So yeah, that's what I'm doing, like, for, you know, mind stimulation. But I've been in school for like 20 years. Whatever part of the world I was in, I was always doing like community college at night and taking this course or that course. So I'm just a learner. I've always been a learner. And I think that's what facilitates for me to write fast and think fast. And then ideas come to me when I'm having fun, or I'm in joy, when I'm in the space of joy, like just like titles of books come to me. Like I have a whole list, girl, on my on my cell phone of titles of books that I believe that I need to write.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't know when I'm going to do it, but just information flows, and I do pay attention to that, because I'm a firm believer that this information that comes to us is not just for no reason.
Yeah.
Like there's things, there's information, there's messages that come to us that we need to pay attention to, and then we need to take action. And one of the things that I remember earlier, you brought up Wayne Dyer, is Wayne Dyer, like in the very last years of his life, he would have dinner with his family, and he'd be sitting there, and he would have this idea, and then he would get up from the dining with his family, and he'd go to the room, he'd start writing, and then his kids would be like, Dad, you know, why are you leaving the table? And he said, well, I had this idea, I gotta take action.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of when I was doing my training with John Maxwell, because I'm one of his mentees, and he's one of my coaches. And he spent like a whole hour in a conference when I was in Florida, where he would say, whatever idea comes to you, it's coming from God. So do it now, 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 do it now. And he did that for like an hour. He's like, do it now, do it now. And I never forgot that. And then everybody's like, an hour later, he's like, do it now. And he's into the microphone. He's like, do it now. And at first I was like, he's a weirdo. Yeah, I love it. But then after an hour, like, I get it. Yes, if that idea comes, and if it's at all possible, like, act on it, do it, just get on it, because these ideas are in the ether. These amazing, powerful, joyful experiences are in the ether. They're around us, and all we have to do is, you know, take them and then take action on them. And I'm an example of that, of being able to tap into the ether and say, oh, okay. And I'm blessed that I have the opportunity to take action on a lot of the things that come to me. And I don't take credit for, oh, I came up with this idea, or it's all me. No, it was like I tapped into this network. I call it ether. You know, I think a lot of people call it this network that we have, that God has given us access to, and then we can make magic. We can make really amazing things happen. So.
But you're such of an artist, Adriana. Like, I see your work, the way you do edits, the way you create slides, the way you create, like, just anything that you promote. You know, it's either you on a cartoon just the graphics, the colors. It's beautiful. Your art is very beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of it I do create visually in at night in community college. I took this graphic
Yeah.
design art class years ago, and when nobody was doing graphic design and people didn't even know what that was. And I remember just learning how to use Photoshop and how to use how to use the SLR camera and how to um, do photography, black and white photography, and learning about lighting and learning about all of those things like years ago.
Yeah.
And now, because everything is so digital and everybody's using graphics to tell stories, it's just second nature for me, where I'm like, oh, I could design it. And that's one of the reasons why I'm taking this art class, so I can really learn how to draw, because I really believe, and I'm going to go off on a tangent on this because I love the subject, but we're in the middle of a revolution when it comes to artificial intelligence and virtual reality. And those of us who are able to express ourselves digitally, in a digital manner, and who are able to draw and design, we will be able to create virtual spaces and virtual reality a lot easier. And that's why it's important, I believe, based on what I've read and what I've researched, is that if you can draw, and I mean like literally draw, then you'll be able to draw your world. And I want to write a book about that because it's so interesting and it's happening so fast with technology. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm doing the class right now, because I'm like, I want to learn how to distinctively draw. And I don't have to be perfect at it, but I want to be able to be able to use the technology that's coming out in the near future, in the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
So I'll be able to design those products or design those ideas visually. And I'm a techie, and I know you know that, but I'm really good with computers and things like that. So yeah, that's a really good way to kind of shift thinking if you're thinking about what's ahead or what's going to come in the future and what industry should I get in. You know, a lot of the robots will be taking over the mundane things in life. So what's left is those of us who are artists, those of us who are coaches, who are into professional development, those of us who are helping other people grow. Because when people no longer have to do certain things around the house because robots have taken over or technology has taken over, what does a person do? A person sits back and says, what should I do with my life? And then they don't know. Right? No, how are you going to decide? So then people like us come in and say, hey, let me help you design your life. Let me show you the principles of developing yourself, you know, the principles of the principles of what is the best way to guide or to live a life, right? Because as coaches, as you know, we spend our lives doing this type of stuff, which is helping people progress and grow in whatever area. So, so yeah, that's where I'm at.
Well, I think it's never wrong, you know, the kind of experiences you go through. And I can think of you being in the military, and that probably, you know, gain you skills like being disciplined and maybe, you know, other ones that a normal, a regular woman wouldn't experience, you know, being around men and having to do like things that are smart, but also save your life. And I think it's experience that not many women have, and not many Latinas as well, you know. So you're a good example of, you know, how far can you go, really.
Yeah, I love my military experience. I always, I'm really grateful for it. And, you know, like I said earlier, I was like a total maverick. Like I was so anti doing what everybody else was doing, because nobody was going into the military. No women that I knew were going into the military in the 90s.
Yeah. So you were a pioneer.
But I knew that at that time I was at a 4-year university and it was really expensive. I was at San Jose State University, so you can just imagine, right? That's where all the Silicon Valley gurus, you know, went. And I knew that I wasn't college bound. Like I knew that and I also, in the 90s, it was crazy for me to pay for a psychology book for $300 when I could barely find money to eat. Like I was like, I'm gonna go spend $300 on a psychology book that's that is going to be outdated in a couple of years. Like, no. And then I would sell it back. Like I would sell my books back. And so I would try not to mark on them and stuff, because I would pay $300 for the book and then they would only give me $50 back. And I was like, that's a scam.
Yeah.
So I knew, and then I was really social. I just loved being at the university, but I never went to class. So that was a problem. And I knew I needed discipline. And then I was like, I'll see if I can get into the Air Force. And I was really fortunate, because not only did I get into the Air Force, but I got the job that I wanted. And then, you know, it was awesome. I was in Space Command. I got to work monitoring satellites and working in conjunction with NASA and Lockheed Martin. And I got to travel all over the world. And I was a 19-year-old punk kid who was just a maverick and breaking all the rules. And I'm really grateful for that, because when I got out of the military, no one could pop my ego. No one could pop it. It was huge. And I remember I got out and I walked into a marketing firm. I had done this research. I knew I wanted to keep traveling. And I'd researched this marketing firm, the most prestigious marketing firm in the Silicon Valley. And I knew who the VP was. Her name was Lisa Van Rosendale. And I walked in there so cocky, so full of ego. And, you know, and I walked in and I said I wanted an interview with the vice president of sales. And I interviewed for like half an hour. And she gave me the job. I wasn't qualified for the job. I didn't have a degree. But later on, years later, she told me that she gave me the job because when I walked in there, she couldn't believe the audacity that I had. Without a degree, without, you know, but she just loved the fact that I had the guts to do it. And then, you know, I did really well with that company and moved on to other and bigger, better things. But I'll never forget that, because that taught me, as I think I was 24 years old, that taught me as a 24-year-old that it didn't have to do anything with degrees or school or how much you knew or how many books you read, or it didn't have anything to do with that. Everything had to do with how confident you were. That was it.
That's how you got in with confidence.
That was it. In the United States Air Force gave me that because of the things that I had seen. Imagine you're a 20-year-old kid traveling all over the world to access to stuff that, if my dad knew what part of the country I was or some of the stuff that I was doing, he would be scared for me. Yeah. And just, you could do anything. Like I knew when I got out, I could do anything. And that was priceless. Like no university could ever teach me that. Yeah. Like to have the guts to say and do those things only comes through a personal knowing, a personal understanding of yourself that says, yeah, I can do that. And I wasn't even scared. Like if they didn't hire me at that marketing firm, like I wasn't scared that they were going to say no to me. I was like, I'll go to the next one. I was just going to keep trying. And it was only one interview and it was like 30 minutes. And it was funny because she kept laughing. And at first I was like, are you laughing at me? And then she's like, I can't believe you. I can't believe you, girl. And like, she just kept looking at me like she couldn't believe that how dare I go in and ask for this position. It was like for like a account executive at the time, I think. And she was just like, yeah, you got the job. You start on Monday. And I was like, and I remember walking to the car and I couldn't believe it because the money that they were giving me was like 5 times more than what I was making as an airman in the Air Force. Wow. And I remember I was shaking because I got in the car and I was like, yeah, you know, like, and I couldn't tell anybody because I couldn't share it with anyone because the people at that time in my circle, they weren't making that much money. And I didn't want them to think that I was bragging.
Yeah. Well, you could have.
And, you know, so
now they know.
Yeah, and it was just crazy, but I owe that to being in the military. So I recommend that if you're not college bound or if college isn't for you, then that's definitely an alternative. You know, if that is for you, you learn so much. You learn things in the military that no university could ever teach you. Not Yale, not Harvard, not Stanford. Like, please get out of here.
So how do you feel about yourself when you realize you were going to make 5 times more? Like, how did that big jump feel for you?
I was really scared. I was really scared of money for a long time. Like, I'm telling you, I was shaking. Like, I couldn't believe that when I got the offer letter, because back then they didn't do offer letters in the mail, in the emails. They did, you know, they gave you like the offer letter and you had to sign. And I remember like signing my offer letter and my hand shaking because I was coming in wow, that means, and I was like, you know, using my little calculator and like, after taxes, it's California. So after taxes, after federal taxes, oh my God, I'm gonna have, you know, this much. And I was scared because I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't, as a 20-something-year-old woman, I didn't know what I was going to do with the money. I didn't know about fidelity and investing in stocks. I mean, I knew about it, but I wasn't like an avid person that I really understood the process or understood that, you know, you buy shares and then you can sell them when, you know, they rise in price, or that you could buy certain certain assets so you could, you know, gain money later on. Like, I didn't understand that, not at that age. And I didn't know what a mentor was. I didn't know what a coach was, because I didn't grow up with anyone in my family who understood those concepts. And I know it's really hard, like maybe for people that are listening, but that's why I believe mentorship is key, especially within our community, because we don't grow up with anybody saying, oh, I just hired a coach that's going to teach me A, B, and C, and you know they're gonna charge me $5,000. Like, that's not happening in our community, you know, for Latinas. And you know, even in the 90s, that was like unheard of, like that you would pay a coach $5,000, $10,000, or whatever the price, right?
Yeah.
To walk you through the basics. And now it's kind of like a given that you need a coach. Like, I have 4 different coaches, right? And some I pay for, some I don't. Some I'm, you know, depending on what project I'm working on, then I know that I need guidance and you need to seek guidance. But at that time, when I was in my 20s, I didn't think to get a financial coach. You know, I think I got a financial advisor when I was in my 30s. And then it was like at Waddell and Reed, and he walked me through like my finances. And I remember he had a whiteboard and he explained money to me. And I was like, oh, so he's like, yeah, so if you've been making this much since you were 20 and now you're 30 and you haven't saved anything, what have you been doing with your money? And I remember telling him, and I was being really honest, I remember telling him, well, last year when I pulled my Wells Fargo bank account, I had spent $3,600 dining at Mimi's.
Wow.
You know, like, and I'm like, and he's like, you spend a lot of time dining out. And he's like, why you don't cook? And I'm like, no. And then so he explained money to me in the whiteboard. And then he said, oh, you could have invested this much and you could have had this much money. By the time you're 50, you could retire.
Wow.
Like, you know, so it was all just a learning. Everything's been a learning process. So that's why I love to write about this stuff, because say somebody who's in their 20s picks up my book or picks up any of the stuff that I've produced and that I've created. My hope is that they gain a nugget of wisdom where they don't make the same mistakes I did.
Yeah. So
that was my whole 2 cents on the Air Force.
Well, I think now young people is looking for wisdom, you know, quicker than we did back then. Mm-hmm. They're just hungry for learning, and it's so available, especially with technology, and they think differently. You know, they want to overcome barriers. They want to get rid of the old. And sometimes as a parent, it's a little bit difficult because you don't think you're outdated until they say something, you know, and then you have to like kind of think about it and see what else can you do to just to be on them, you know, just pretty much to connect with them. I remember when my son was younger, he told me, do you know that if you don't learn how to use a computer, you're going to be considered like someone who doesn't know how to read? And I said, what? He said, yeah, you got to learn because if you don't, you're going to be considered that way.
Wow. Well, hey,
Yeah.
he was right. How old was he when he said that to you? How old was he? How old
Yeah.
was he when he said that, or when he told you that?
He was young, probably like 8 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
He's a smart
Yeah, I
kid.
remember he was kind of young, but he said that like you need to learn. And so whenever I have a difficulty with something and I ask him, he says, Google it. Look for YouTube videos, but he doesn't help me. You know, he says, well, because when I used to help you, you didn't learn. So now you have to find out for yourself. So
Mm,
it's like I cannot count on him, but it pushes me to search, you know, just
learn.
do research
Um,
and learn my way.
and that's it. That's also learning is a mindset. Like
Yeah.
I knew when I left San Jose State University that just because I didn't go to college didn't mean that I wasn't going to stop learning. Like I knew that I needed to back in the day go to the library and check out books and read them,
Yeah.
or skim through them if it was interesting to me, or continue to go to community college at night when I would work. Most of my life I had two or three jobs minimum. And then at night I would go to community college one class. And in the early 2000s, there wasn't a lot of online classes that was like considered like, oh, you're doing online, that's not a real class. Now it's like
Yeah.
common. But I was always learning something, creating something, and then continuing to just learn. And I talk to like PhD students right now, or people with masters that are going through a master's program, and they're not learning as much as I'm learning.
Wow.
Because they have a different rhythm. And for years, my rhythm has been, what am I learning today? How am I growing today? And that's super, super important that mindset is there. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you listen to your son. I know you're a techie because you're all
I try. I try. I make my
Yeah.
effort, girl, because I
Yeah.
don't wanna, be considered
Yeah.
like someone who cannot read.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So your mindset is in the right place. Like you're
Yeah.
operating knowing that. And
Yeah.
unfortunately a lot of people don't, right? They think,
Yeah.
oh, I have a master's degree already, so yeah, and that means you have to keep learning, because a degree doesn't mean much nowadays. It's about what you produce, how you impact the world, and how big you can think and how big you can act on that and make something happen. So,
But a lot of people, a lot of times people also leave like careers and degrees to do something artistic or something that call their heart, too. And they can make a good living, or they might not make the same money, but they're happier.
exactly. Yeah. And then, like, for example, people who want to be doctors or
Yeah.
engineers or mathematicians, those are all careers they require for you to get some type of certification or degree. But you look at the statistics, and most people get a bachelor's or bachelor's of science, and they never use it.
Yeah.
They go into accounting when they got an art degree. You know what I mean? So, which I think, hey, whatever makes you happy, do that. It's so simple.
Yeah.
Whatever makes you happy. Like Wayne Dyer says, you're always gonna carry wood and carry water and chop wood. Carry water and chop wood, and no matter what stage in life you're in, we're all gonna work doing something, no? So, yeah.
Definitely. How do you deal with the overload of information that sometimes like you get so much that is available to you? How do you choose what to follow? I know a lot of times it's like an inner voice, that is attracting you to a person, and then it's another one. Or some days you don't feel like listening to that person or working on that project.
That's such a good question, and I love that you asked that. And there is right now, there's a war going on for our attention, like a literal war. Like the powers that be are going to war over our attention span. So right now, more than ever, it's super important that you narrow down your list of people you listen to, and people you follow, and people you're consuming information from. So right now on my list, I have 12 people. So those are the only 12 people that I pay attention to, that I follow, that I listen to. It doesn't seem that way in my social media because, you know, there's like thousands of people, you know.
Yeah.
But when I wake up in the morning, I'm only reading certain people. So for example, I wake up in the morning and I know the first thing that I do is I read Jeffrey Brown's near future report. And that's a report on, you know, world economy, where we're headed in terms of digital currency, you know, what shares to buy, what not to buy, and what the current status is on biotech and technology. So he's my go-to guy, number one, because he's the best in the industry and he provides this report. You know, you pay like an annual fee. So I'm paying for tailored information. That's what I'm paying for. And then, you know, the next one would be on my list, you know, John Maxwell. And of course, he's one of my coaches. So whatever he's putting out on social media, whatever he's writing, I'm reading. And then the next one would be, you know, someone like, I have my whole list. I don't have it here with me, but within the 12 people, certain people that are the best in the industry for what I want to learn. So right now it's like in cryptocurrencies. So I have certain people, right? I'm really big on that right now. And then it's seasonal because there's 12 people on my list, but then what I do is when I go on Facebook, I usually don't go through the timeline or the feed. All I'm checking for is every day my focus is who am I helping today? Who am I helping support? Who am I helping promote? Who am I helping grow? Who am I helping, you know, maybe promote a product or a new book that they want out, right? So I have my 20 people that I help. So I know that I'm going to assist these 20 people to promote, to sell, to do whatever it is they need, because the goal is to be of service. The goal is to help. So that's why I'm on social media. I'm not on social media to find out what the latest riot is, what the latest scandal is, you know, I don't care. I see it on my feed, but, you know, am I helping support somebody else? That's the whole goal, right? So that's one strategy to help you not be in the middle of this war of information, okay? Because advertisers and people are trying to take your information and take the way you scroll and take the way that you are consuming information, and then they're selling it. So companies are making money off of how many times you click, how many times you look at something. Like I was on, when I was on Facebook doing, you know, my daily, who can I support, who can I help? And then I saw these shoes. They were really nice shoes. Okay. And I was like, oh. I didn't click on the shoes, even though I wanted to, because I knew that if I clicked on the shoes, then I would start getting all these ads about shoes. Okay. So this is how crazy it's getting, that you have to pay attention to these things. So another way to tailor information is, and the way that I do, because I can only speak from personal experiences, you know, I wake up and I look at my 12 people, depending on what project I'm doing, and I, you know, look through them. And then I also have a list of books that I know that I'm going to read. Okay. So I control the information that I consume. No CNN, no Fox News, no national information, none of that. But if something's going on in the world, I probably would want to read that newspaper from that country, because they're going to tell me the truth about what's happening, not in the United States. Another way to tailor information is, you know, to have a plan, like in your calendar, figure out when you're reading who are you, you know, if you have defined goals, and you're going to know that you don't have time to be sitting on the couch watching sitcoms or watching the latest show or watching the latest movie. Like, forget that. We're in a race for who is going to be ahead in this new AI industry and technology and in business. So if you think that right now that you have time to go watch a movie, or you have time to like hang out and like waste time, it's not even real, because you're going to be left behind.
Yeah.
You're
No,
going to be
it's
left behind.
and also, well, social media is very consuming. So what I want to recommend people is something that has worked for me. So whenever I want to find a page, I want to follow a page or someone that is teaching me, what I do is I select on my view first. So those are the people I view first. So I don't scroll all the way down to try to find them.
Oh, you can do that?
Yeah, you can choose who you want to view first, or just general view, or don't get notified about what they post.
Oh,
You're
that
able
must
to
be a
choose
new
that.
feature. Yeah, I haven't seen it. That's cool. Thanks for sharing that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's helpful to narrow who you follow, or what do you want to see. Like if you have 1,000 friends, which I don't have, but each of them is posting like things about family or pictures or their latest vacation, and it just takes time away from you learning or following something that is teaching you or is giving you the message that you need. A lot of times we have an issue and there is someone that you follow that writes something beautiful. It's like it's meant for you to have it. But if it takes longer, it's like it takes longer for you to get into that love environment. So the quicker
Yeah.
you get in there is better for you, because then you don't have that much need to be on social media, which can be very addicting and also very time consuming.
Oh yeah, the whole social media thing is designed for you to become an addict. So
Yeah.
if you don't know that by now, I don't know what to tell you. For anyone who's watching, like, it's a total addiction. Okay, they play on
It is.
our serotonin, they play on our chemical, our chemistry in our body. So know that, but you can still use it, because I use it. I think in Facebook it's like 5,000 followers, and whenever I was doing a big event, I would just click it, and there was
Yeah.
5,000 people know about the event. So that's power. That's powerful.
Yes.
But I also didn't spend time, and I used to early, like when it first came out, whenever it was 10 years ago, whenever, scrolling. And then I remember I'm like, I just spent 4 hours on Facebook. Oh my God, right?
Yeah.
And then I just learned that it was just, I was using it. It wasn't using me. And I think that's an important distinction. So for business, of course, Instagram and Tumblr, and I don't know what happened with TikTok, if they're still up and running, but you can use all of those for your benefit. It's just when you get stuck with following every like, and a lot of times I miss things because I have designated time. I'm not saying don't use social media. I'm saying you have designated time where you are going to socialize. And that's
Yes.
great. If that's 1 hour, 2 hours, great. But most of the time you have to be really cautious, because if you don't, then you are sitting there for 7 hours. And I don't know about you, but I don't have 7 hours to waste. I
Yeah.
don't. Like, there's too many things that I love my life. There's so many things that I want to accomplish, and so many things that I want to build. So many people that I want to empower, and so many people that I want to help, that I don't have time to watch a sitcom. Like, I don't. You know what I
No,
mean?
but it's good that
I-
you're managing your time, in a smart way, because you can easily, carry out and not really doing anything that it might necessarily help you or help another that you can reach. So what I do now is that I spend more time in my page than I spend scrolling on anyone's page. I find that I edit a lot of my posts, or something that I don't like or don't think is useful, I just delete it.
Yeah. And yeah. So what else are you doing to tailor your information?
Well, besides like seeing it first, also like finding ways of how can I share it that looks professional and that looks clean, and that people can find value on.
Yes. Yeah.
So my focus is that if I can help someone with the post, then I do that, if it benefits someone, but also that if someone wants an inspiration or a word that they're looking for or a message that they want, they can go to my page and find it.
Yeah, I love your page.
Yeah, it's just, being there for when someone might need it, that to make it positive, where you're going to find something that is going to make you either smile or make fun of yourself. Because a lot of times we need that, we need to be able to laugh at ourselves.
Oh yeah. And then there's times where it's okay to just post just because you just want to post for no reason. Like, that's okay too,
Yeah.
But for the most part, I always ask myself, like, when I'm posting something, is this going to help somebody? And if it isn't, then I don't post it. Or I just make it clear, like if I post something and I'm like, oh, okay, it's just because I want to post something right now. Okay. And it's like, I've trained myself to be kinder to myself and not judge myself, because at that moment, that's what I need to do. At this moment, I need to post. At this moment, you know, I want to encourage. At this moment, I want to help at this moment. And that's, you know, myself talking to myself and guiding myself and listening to my heart and listening to what the next step is. And it's a good way to be, for sure.
But also being able to be the observer, Adriana, like when Dyer teaches, you know, like being the observer, or, oh, Adriana, there she goes again. She wants to post something new, or just looking at yourself, you know, without judgment.
Yeah,
and then you decide if you
I'm
want
glad
to
you
do it
brought
or
that
not.
up. I love that. That was like the greatest thing that I learned from Wayne Dyer, was that, like, just be the observer and not judge it and be like, isn't that interesting, Adriana?
Yeah.
You're really bragging about yourself right now. I find that I say that a lot, and I don't know why. And I'm okay with it. I love myself for it. Like, I'm like, okay, you know?
Yeah, self-love is important. It's probably the most important lesson that we can teach anybody. Because when you love yourself, you can love others more than you thought you could probably love them.
Yeah.
You can never give what you don't have.
I love that.
Yeah. It's this ability to, you know, just get rich and then you can give. But you can also, you know, give when you're not rich, when you're willing. Willingness is amazing, you know. Some people can have a lot and not be willing to give you much. And some people might not have much, but they will be willing to give you.
Yeah, my dad was like that. My dad never had any money. And if he did have money, he would give all the money to my mom.
Wow.
Which was beautiful, and highly recommended to all the men.
Be generous to your wife and kids.
But my dad never had any money, but we always felt we never lacked anything growing up. And I remember when I got my first job, because I used to work in the fields with my dad picking raspberries during the summers. And I love those times. It was beautiful being out there, you know, in the dirt and picking the strawberries and being out in nature and having that beautiful experience and like literally getting paid nada, like nothing. And then when I got my first job, it was at a mall, and I was really happy. But then when I was in college, I got this job working at like a Kinko's, making copies and things like that. And I remember at the time they were paying me $9 an hour. This was in the 90s. Wow. And then my dad and my mom came to visit me in college, and my dad said, at the time my dad was only making $7.50 an hour, and I was making $9. And I was at the time 19 years old. So my dad said, this is it. You never want to leave this job because you're making $9 an hour. And this is it. You better come in early and leave late. And sure enough, I followed his instructions. And then like within a month, I was managing the whole store. And he was so proud of me. I think I ended up like making $10 an hour. And I was like, oh my God, I was in heaven.
Yeah.
But he never had any money. We never felt poor. I didn't feel poor. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know we were poor or that we didn't have material things. I learned that later when I was in high school, when I saw my friends pull up in Mercedes and we had to take the school bus. And I knew when I went to their homes and I saw their homes, and it wasn't like multi-million-dollar homes in the Bay Area. It was like these beyond that. Like I didn't understand why anyone would want to live in such a big house. And and then I was like, oh, there's a difference. They have these things and I don't have them. And then I started making, but I was already a teenager when I realized, right? And so, you know, back to my dad, when he would tell me, you know, this is it, this is a good job, you know, you're getting promoted, now you're managing the store, wow, you know. And I was a full-time student at a 4-year university, working full-time, managing this place. And I never had any money because it was like paying for my rent, paying for my books, for school and everything. And I ended up joining the military. But I remember when my dad died in the 90s, I remember going to the funeral, and there was like 500 people there.
Wow.
And I remember he had all these friends that I'd never met, and I was like, how does a man who owns nothing, who like not like he didn't have any money,
Yeah.
have so many people there at his funeral, that were people were crying over his casket. A bunch of friends were like, you know, just like there, it was like their family members had died. And
Yes.
and it was like my dad, right? I wasn't even that, you know, I was sad that he had passed, but I also knew that he had like a really hard life. And I remember thinking, you know, when I die, I hope that people show up like that for me. You know, I was like, wow, that's amazing. You know,
Yeah.
and that had nothing to do with money. Like
Yeah.
he didn't have anything. But 500 people show up to his funeral. Like, are you kidding me? Like, and there's so many people that have so much money, and they'll die, and maybe one or two people will show.
Or they'll pay people to cry in their funeral, you know, because no one is crying about them. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's where, like, that's when that moment when I was there and I was just witnessing. I was a witness to this incredible human being. Because my dad was one of those people that, like, if you needed something, he would do anything in the world to provide you with whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
Like, he'll give you the shirt off his back if he could. Whatever. I mean, he helped so many people. He was just one of those people that helped everybody. And he didn't have much. And somehow he managed to help any way that he could. And I think that we're living in a time right now where that's all people want. They don't want to be given money or, you know, financial wealth. They need that kind of community, that kind of person to show up for them. Even if it's, like you said, in trying to encourage someone, trying to be there for someone, even if it's you know, with a phone call, or just letting people know that hey, I'm here for you. I know you exist. And I think that's disappearing in the world, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I think your dad was a gentleman, and also he was rich in kindness. You know, he gave kindness to anyone that will need it. You know, and he just, that's what he had. He had kindness to give. He found a way to give that away. You know, so.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, I don't know if you know, but in spirituality, when someone dies, you know, the first day they go into judgment. The following day, they go to choose the heaven they want. And the third day, their soul is divided in between 15 to 25 people. So the immediate family gets part of the soul right away. So it's the wife and the kids, anyone that they love, and anyone they want to become an angel on their life. So part of the soul that your dad was, it stayed with you. So it became part of your soul.
Ooh, I love that.
Yes.
Thanks for sharing that. That's beautiful.
Yes.
I love that. Wow. Yeah, I could feel my dad all the time. You know.
He's one of your angels, Adriana. Like, he passed on to you that desire to help others, but also to think that if you give, you're never gonna run out of anything. You know, like just to trust that if there was that you will always have to give, not necessarily thinking that you're gonna be lacking anything for yourself, but to think that you're always gonna have to give. I think that's how he viewed himself, as someone that always had to give. He never saw himself as unable to give. I think he always saw himself as able to give. So that's why people reach out to him.
I'll never forget that. I think that was like the most beautiful lesson. Like, he taught me so many amazing things, you know. And you know what, the greatest and most amazing lesson that he gave me was taking me to the fields to go work with my sisters to pick raspberries. Because when I got the job at the mall as a teenager, I was in heaven, because I already knew what it was to, like, make, like, I think it was like 75 cents for working all day or something like that. working in the fields in the heat, in the dirt. And when I got a job at the mall, it was like I was in heaven. And then when I moved up, you know, to this job at the university, it was like, wow, it was amazing. And every job that I had after that, I was always like, I always felt rich because
Yeah.
I already knew what it was to work in the field. So when people like in the corporate world would complain, oh, you know, my chair, it's so uncomfortable, or the screen that I'm on, it's like, you know, I need to get a new computer because that when the keys don't work or whatever. And every day I would walk into whatever job I had, whatever career I was doing at the moment, and every day I would be so grateful because I was indoors.
Yes.
There was air conditioning,
Yes.
and the water was free. The water was free. Those were the three things where I was like, I'm rich. And then, you know, when I first got like my first used car, I was like, yeah, you know. And then eventually, like in my 30s, I got this old used beat up Porsche. Girl, I thought I was a millionaire. I was like, woo, I arrived. I was like, I arrived. I'm driving a Porsche, you know. And the thing was only like 10 grand or something like that. But I thought I was really wealthy. And I owe that my ability to feel extremely abundant and wealthy because how my dad was. Like, if he hadn't showed me how it was to work in the fields and how it feels to earn a day's wage for myself, then I don't think that I would appreciate everything that I have. And, you know, it was funny because, you know, as I got older, a lot of my girlfriends, they were like professional women that were raised with, you know, a lot of material things. You know, a lot of times they would look at me and they'd be like, why are you so happy about that, dude? Your car's all beat up. And I'm thinking, I have a car and it's paid for.
Yeah.
That's heaven, man. I don't gotta pay no bill. I'm like, well, come on, you know. And then they didn't understand why I was always so grateful for those little things. And, you know, they would have like these really nice apartments and these really nice things, but they were never happy. And then I got so much joy. I remember in the early days, like going to Goodwill and getting a nice suit and taking it to the dry cleaners and being so happy because I got a good deal on it. And I was so grateful. And then I would have friends that would say, why do you share that? Don't tell people that. And I'm like, please, like, I care. Like, I don't care, man. Like, there is power in knowing how abundant you are. Like, there's so much power in that. And there's so much power in speaking the truth.
It is.
Without people. And in Spanish, no, ¿qué va a decir la gente? What are people going to say? Like,
yeah. Yeah, sometimes people think that, you know, to refine yourself, you need to be polished and you need to be perfect and to avoid like sensitive topics. And you always have to pretend, you know, everything happened to you in a minute. And it's never like that, you know. It's never that way. Ultimately, people appreciate when you're genuine, when you're able to share, you know, your how you grew, why you appreciate things. And I think you're a young spirit, you know, you're a happy person. And that is beautiful because you're appreciated, you know, you're teaching people that it doesn't matter, you know, how other people see what you have, and not understanding why you are joyful about it. Like it's this, you know, big joy that comes out of you that you can stop it, you know. It's like it's contagious, but they don't understand how to tap into it.
Yeah. I think a lot of times it's not because they don't want to, it's because nobody taught them like the value of $1 or the value of work.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful work is beautiful, man. Whatever you're working on, whatever work it is, like work is beautiful. Work is a way of loving life. Like work is contribution. Work is beautiful.
You grow so much through work, you know. You get to appreciate, you get to see how systems works. You get like, I think you get into a work environment and you're already looking in ways how you can make it better, and like you're able to identify, if only they did this differently, you know, it will be so much better for everybody. Like you're already, it's almost like you want them to ask you, you know, what you see and how can you help me. But sometimes we're not in position of that, where they don't even think we're capable of doing the job when we already have solutions. And how can everyone be benefited from it?
Yep. Yeah. And I write about that in my book, Corporate Code. I write about how that mentality or that mindset needs to shift for corporations, you know, where we need to see employees as collaborators as opposed to someone you just go do that and go tell them, instead of telling them what to do, it's like, let's bring them into the conversation, let's collaborate together. And it's more like a spherical leadership style, right? Where there's a problem and then everybody collaborates to work towards a solution.
It's important to keep unity, Adriana. So what I've been realizing through job situations is that when people come in late, it's not because they don't care or they're lazy. It's just because they're not motivated about work, or they don't get recognized, or they don't get equal pay. They don't get given opportunities. They don't get time to eat. They're not treated right. So it's like they don't feel integrated into the group. So if we can, appreciate people, they will be more interested in showing up to work.
Yep. Yeah. And and the key is identifying, those key things for as an employer, saying, oh, Adriana didn't show up on time today. Okay, well, having that conversation and saying, hey, how can I help you?
Yeah.
And maybe you say, oh, I didn't have childcare. Like I used to hear that all the time.
Yeah.
My son was sick and I didn't want to leave him at the daycare. I couldn't. I'm gonna bring him to work. Which, by the way, most women would do that. It's just like that's another conversation we need to have, is shifting that and saying, oh, do we provide space for a woman to be able to bring her children, if possible, not depending on the industry, right? But having those conversations of, you're late. Oh, your car broke down. Oh, okay. How can we help you? I remember one time I was working for a company, and the hood in I was driving a Jeep at the time, and the hood in my Jeep Wrangler lifted up, and it broke my windshield. And I couldn't see because, and I was on the freeway, and I remember when I got to work, very dangerous, my boss paid for my new windshield.
That's good.
Yeah. Like that, I wasn't going to leave that company, right? And she knew that, I don't think my insurance could have paid for it, because it was one of those things where it happened like in the road, and somehow my hood, it just lifted up and it broke. It just crashed, or it broke my entire window, and my boss was like even more scared for me. She was a woman, I remember.
Yeah.
She was like, are you okay? Do you need to go home? And I'm like, I'm fine. I'm ready to work, and then she took out, I remember she wrote me a check, and she said, go pay for that. I was like,
oh, I'm glad.
Wow. Yeah. I was like, that's straight up cool.
Yeah, women can be game changers, especially because we understand, like when we have kids and it's hard to leave them. I remember talking to my older son, and I say, well, for me, it's not hard to work. I can work all day. What is hard for me is to leave you guys, especially when you're little. And when I know a babysitter is not caring, or you can be in danger of being sexually abused or mistreated. I remember one time I went pick up my little one, and he was laying on the floor. The carpet was dirty, and there was roaches around him. And it's just, those situations where you worry about when you're at work. And sometimes, it's you have no one else to leave your child with. And it's tough when you're a parent going through those situations if you don't have much help or much money to pay for something better.
Yeah. I was really fortunate because my mom, I was a single mom for 7 years, which I'm really proud of. I love being a mom and not having to depend on another income. But I remember my mom, she was always there for me. Like I never had to take my son to daycare or anything like that. My mom was always there. And then I was really fortunate because I had a great income, and I was able to find somebody who was a family friend who was a registered nurse who came from Mexico and was doing her testing here. And then she would travel with me. So whenever I would travel to different states for my work, she would come with me and my son. And then she would stay in the hotel with my son and take him to the pool and have dinner, at whatever hotel we were at. And then she would wait until I got home, not home, but back to the hotel. And then, so she was like my traveling nanny. So I'm always really grateful for that I was able to do that. But that's not common, because usually single parents struggle. and like they have nobody, no family, nobody they can leave the kids with. So I was always, every day I woke up and I was so grateful. I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, like it does make a difference. It does.
No, it does. And definitely, you know, I don't feel like so much on my memories, but on their memories, you know, and they might
Yeah.
not perceive it as I do, but it's just, it's that part of you that is doing something well, and then you feel you're not doing the other part that well, you know. I guess it's that necessity that we have to see ourselves in a way that you're doing the best, you know, regardless of how it might seem like it.
Yeah. You can only do what you can do. My mom was like never home. My parents were never home. We raised ourselves, and I always felt my mom loved me no matter what, even if I hardly ever saw her. And we would wait for her at night. She was a nurse's assistant, and then me and my sister would be like fixing the plants in the front. And one time we painted the whole house, and you know, we had these chores and these things that we needed to do. I was the one who would cook, and then my other sisters would clean. And so she had us in a ritual, this system that we had to do. And then we would wait for her, like it was 9-10 o'clock at night, and we would wait like little puppies until she got home. Yeah. And then we would see her for like half an hour, and then we wouldn't see her again until the next time. And you know, thinking about it, I'm like, how that must have been so hard for her. Yeah, she didn't really get to see us. But I remember just from now this perspective, like I always felt loved. Like I always felt loved, and there was a lot of love in the house. You know, we didn't own anything, but like there was so much love, and really that's all you need. Like if your children know that you love them, like if your children really know deep down inside that you love them, that's it, girl. Like that's all you can do as a mom. And so, you know, in a way, I always felt like for my son, my older son, like, oh, that boy knows that I love him. Like there's no way that he doesn't know that. Yes. And I make sure of it every day. So all the other stuff that we've gone through, both of us, before I met my husband and stuff, it was just my son and I. And I'm confident because of the experience that I had with my mom and my dad that, you know, because they were never home, that it was still a good life. It was a wonderful, beautiful life growing up knowing that you're loved. And I think that you do that with your children. I know that, girl. I know you.
Yeah, I tell them all the time. I do, you know, even little details or anything just to let them know, because if there is times when I'm doing 2 jobs and I'm too tired and, you know, I don't see them that much. So it's always like you feel like you're losing part of their age. Like I miss my older one when he was 5. And probably your mom felt that way too. You know, with you guys, it's like you feel like you miss certain age where you wish you would have played more with them.
Yeah. Yeah. But, you know, my mom, we literally never saw her, and it was okay. We still felt loved all the time, and that was okay because she did the best that she could with the resources she had.
Yeah.
And love, man, love is powerful. I don't care how bad the scenario is. Like if somebody loves you, like if somebody loves you like that, like come on. Yeah. You're good, man. You're golden. Like you won the lottery, man, because there's so many people that don't have that. Like I talk to grown ass women and men, and they don't know what that is.
Wow, that is so sad, you know. I remember coming from work like super tired, and I would tell my son, let's go play soccer. And we will be playing soccer outside or riding the bicycle. And I just wanted him to have those memories. But I felt like I still miss him, you know. I wish I would have done more. And probably he has good memories, but it was more my need to share with him.
Yeah. I think as moms, we all kind of have a little bit of that. Yeah, for sure. But kids know. I mean, come on. I see the videos, girl. I know you are like showing them with the bike and hanging out with them.
Well, my little one is my bubble gum right now. You know, the older one has like different schedule, and he's trying to grow, and he's trying to be away from me, and I'm just giving him that time, you know, that opportunity, because he doesn't want to be a mama's boy anymore. So he wants to do things on his own. And
how old is he now?
23.
23.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's a whole other conversation too about just being women and being mothers, like the expectation, you know. And I was so fortunate that I felt loved all the time. I didn't. I think that was the greatest gift. And I can tell you horror stories of some of the stuff that I saw growing up, like horror. Like you'd be like, what? But that didn't even change the fact that I felt loved. Like, man, my parents, like, I won the lottery with those two because they loved me. Like, whew. And nothing can change that. Like all their actions and all the craziness they were all doing, and you know, just some really awful moments. Like none of it. Like once you get it, like once the switch is on, like you're like, whew. Like they were like loving people. You know, I mean, like I said, like think about somebody gets 500 people in their funeral. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. That's really pretty. I think those are one of the treasures that no one can take away from you. Like I remember how my mom used to be proud of me. I mean, she still is, but the way she will smile when teachers told her she was smart, and she'll be like, I know. And it's just like she like there was no moment where I would give her trouble for anything, and she still loves me very much. But it's just like I feel like the treasure is in there, and I can go anytime I need to, just to feel that pure love.
Yeah. And then I know you, so you know you're like all up and going and doing your thing, and you're, you know what I mean, like you're moving and shaking stuff up. So
yeah, I'm just trying to make my future life better, Adriana. It's just a lot of times I'm spending a lot of time reading, or I will fall asleep because I'm so tired listening to videos or anything that might help me. And so my little one, I was falling asleep on the sofa the other day, and he went and brought a blanket. So then later on I came, it's like 2 a.m. I come to his room and I said, Alex, I'm up. I'm going to my room. He says, oh, Mom, he says, well, you know, I went and checked on you earlier and you were just sleeping with your phone, but you look adorable.
Oh.
And he's just like very loving, you know, very caring. I'm so glad that I have him. But it's just beautiful to see when someone loves you that way.
Yeah. And, you know, I say if you're going to fall asleep, you're better off falling asleep reading some book that's intriguing your mind and growing your mind than it is falling asleep watching a soap opera. You know what I mean? Like, you know, no judgment. Like I'm not placing any judgment.
No, of course.
But I'm just saying there's so much to learn, and you know, there's work to do.
Don't waste my time. No, I was listening to a training that I didn't get to watch because I had a lady visiting, and I couldn't attend some training that we have for NSA. So there was the speaker I didn't get to see, but he had a free program he had a free PowerPoint presentation on YouTube. So that's what I was listening to.
Yeah.
Of course, I understand, you know, time is flying, and if I don't learn anything that could possibly help me later in life, I'm going to pay the price of wasting my time right now.
Yeah. When I joined the military, I remember thinking, I knew that it was going to be hard physically. I knew that they were going to yell at me, and I knew that it was going to be tough. And it was like the testing that I had to do, and the career field that I got into was very difficult. I had to do a lot of learning, and I had to do it quickly. But I remember that as a teenager, I remember thinking, I need to do the hard things right now so my life will be easier later.
Yeah.
And oh boy, and my dad told me that, and I learned that from him. And I'm telling you, that was like the key. Like, do the hard stuff now, so when you get older, you got it. And that experience totally has helped me. Especially, I owe everything that I've accomplished, I believe, in terms of opportunity, because of what the military taught me. And that stuff was hard.
But you were young and you were brave to take that opportunity and to be able to, you know.
Yeah.
stay till the end and to be able to came out and got a job that pay you well, you know?
Yeah. And it was hard, but at the same time, the benefit was I got to see the world. Like before I hit 30, I had already lived in several different countries and had traveled all over the world. So, you
Yeah,
know,
you felt invincible. Like, you know, you were already experienced like the world in a way that maybe an 80-year-old didn't experience at your 30s, being 30-year-old.
yeah. And I think that that helped me in the sense that by the time I hit 30, I was like, oh, well, what do I do now? You know? And then when I got coaching and I got people mentoring me, when I understood the value of someone coaching me and the value of paying for coaching and paying for conferences and paying for experts, that's
Yeah.
when I learned, oh, it's not about me, it's about serving others, right? And I didn't need to do the traveling, the partying, any of that, buying the car, buying the house. I didn't need to do any of those things because I had already done those. By the time I was 30, I had done all those things. So now what was left? It was about outward expression. It was about service. It was about helping others. And that's been my whole focus after that. Like I was like, oh, okay. So when people in their 40s are still trying to get the Porsche or the house or the things or whatever, if you get all that junk out of the way in your 20s, and you can live a really good life. Like somebody I knew, a really wise guy once told me, life starts at 40. I thought, no, that's not true. Like, and I was in my 30s, and I was like, no, life is great right now. So no, life starts at 40. And then when I hit 40, I was like, yeah, because at 40, it's like the perfect age, I think. Because for me, it was like relief. Like it was so relief. Like who gives a F? Like just do your thing, and every day you focus on helping another human being.
Yeah.
And then it's there's no pressure. It's just like that's it. That's the only goal in your life.
Yeah, it's definitely a beautiful age. Kathy Kulisha was telling me that if you go through Google and you study the most successful woman, it happens in your 50s. So she says if you can get coached before you're 50, because you're going to be at your peak, at the top of your wisdom, at the top of your charisma, and everything is going to be there where you can make so much money, but also you can make a big impact on the world and just, you know, be a star. Yeah. And I think you're running fast.
Well, hey, I'm not 50 yet. I will be.
Well, probably, I don't know, late 40s, early 50s. But she says, you know, the most successful women are within that age group. So.
Yeah. Look at, I think Louise Hay, if I recall correctly, I might be wrong, but Louise Hay didn't start Hay House until she was in her 60s, I think.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, she's one of the ones I like listen constantly about, you know, the books that she does, the meditations, the 100 affirmations, whatever it is, you know, it's just some weeks it's just Louise, especially when something hurts in my body, and it's just wanting to heal whatever it is in your past so you can get rid of all the stats that we get every day, you know, that we don't need this many, really.
Yeah. It's so funny because you do it too, huh? Like when something hurts or something, and I'm like, Louise Hay, liver problems, and then you're like, oh, unresolved anger and unresolved issues or whatever. Like, oh, my finger hurts. Oh, if it's your index finger, that means that you're holding a grudge against someone. And I was like, oh, and then it's always true. I'm like, oh yeah, and then I'm like, I just center myself, and I'm like, I go through the prayer, and then it goes away.
She's such a great teacher, but you know, the feeling I get is that like you want to learn it so you can give a speech about it, so you can train someone, so you can understand yourself, and so you don't have to go to the doctor.
Yeah, just share it. Like sharing information is powerful, man. You know, especially if it's coming from a good place where you just want to share. And, hey,
I guess she taught us that it's never late, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's awesome. She was awesome. Yep.
What else do you want to share? Do you want to share at someone? Oh, tell us where people can follow you.
Oh, you can. The best place is Instagram, because in Instagram I have this really cool link that's like a tree link, and it has all of these different um, different things that you can follow me on. So if you go to my Instagram and then you follow the link. So right now I'm doing um, this newsletter that I send out every other Friday, and the newsletter is about having filtered information. So there's different projects that I'm working on. So if you want to follow me, you want to register to that particular newsletter, and then that way every other Friday you'll get a newsletter on what I'm up to, what books I'm bringing out, or any tools that I have, who I'm reading, what I'm doing, and I'm calling it my tailored information newsletter, because that's really, and it's free. You can participate in it, and it will give you kind of like a snippet of everything that I've learned and everything that what I'm up to, and it'll kind of structure it can help you structure what kind of information you're receiving. So earlier we were talking about what are you doing about all this information that it's coming in, like how do you filter it all? Well, the newsletter does that for you. The newsletter creates this, it's like just one page newsletter, and it says, hey, this is what's going on right now, this is what's going on in finance, this is what's going on in professional development, and it's like quick. It'll either take you to a video, or like when I launched my Bitcoin ledger, it was on there, and like you can get a free copy of it, and you can get a free copy of these other projects that I'm doing. If you want to participate in the Latinas 100, which is becoming an author by 2020 and totally free, I'll show you the steps, and then you can be published by 2020 in the Latinas 100 book. And yeah, so follow me on Instagram. It's under Adriana Rosales Speaker in Instagram. And I'm sure you'll put it in the description. So.
Yes. Well, I haven't shared a picture of you. Because I wasn't sure that I was gonna be able to do the interview, but I'm glad. I'm glad that you were able to. That we were able to get it done today, because you are someone I wanna show off. I want people to get to know you. I want to bring the multicultural, but also positive influences. And I know you're gonna be big, soon enough, where I'm gonna look back and I'm gonna be so grateful that you say yes to be on Meet My Friends, and we will be speaking about it. We will create an event as well.
Yeah, and thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I think a lot of people is gonna be happy that you are there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And your work is so beautiful, Adriana. I want you to know, how much you influence people, and you might not realize it, but people is gonna find a way to let you know that you make a difference in their life, and just this talk that we just have, woman to woman, it also lets them know what we listen to, what is important to us, what things we avoid, if it's something that might be helpful, because your newsletter sounds like a shortcut to scrolling to me. So you just made a shortcut for us to, not necessarily have all this bog of information that you can spend a lot of time.
It's just resources, and it's tailored. I call it my tailored information newsletter.
Okay, really good. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. You're welcome to come back anytime. You'll keep your same number 16 just to identify you, and we can always do returns.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Love you. And I look forward to having another conversation soon.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks.
You're welcome.